Yeah, man. Back again. Nomtombout Radio, NOMTOMBOUT. Man, we somewhere real palatial. I don't even know what that word means. But it's a real beautiful day out here, man. Nomtombout Radio, we back for another week. 91.7 WVXU, FM, HD2. Also check us out every Wednesday on Radio Artifact. Ticket.com. Come. Yeah, man, back for another week. I am your host, Six.
And I am Vibe One. And as I always have to do, shout out to the KY side. Peace to Covington, peace to Newport, Erlanger, Florence, Burlington, Campbell County, all surrounding areas, and definitely peace and love to the Natty, no doubt. Hey, we got a really, really special guest for y'all today. A legendary hip-hop artist in the city of Cincinnati, world traveler, knows everybody, and doing some real good things with cannabis, with that cannabis plant. We're going to get into that. But we're going to get into right now and let y'all know this brother's name. Go ahead and introduce yourself, please, sir.
Big up, no, I'm talking about radio, folks, in the place to be. My name is King Solomonic. King Solomon, a.k.a. Solomonic, representing right here in Cincinnati, Ohio. Nice, pleasure to be here.
No doubt. Thanks for coming. We had a couple of mix-ups, with this COVID and everything. We got to make things happen how we got to make things happen. We've been mobile for the last few months, so we want to say thank you to everybody that has been checking us out and subscribing to our page on YouTube and checking us out on Instagram and Facebook. So to get into this interview, this conversation, we always like to take it back. So we want to take you back to your origins of who you are just as a human being. Bring it up to when you got into music. How did you get into music? How did you get into, I guess I would say, because it's beyond just a music thing, because we elder statesmen and we still doing it, so it has to be some love involved in it too. So just, how the movie said, when did you fall in love with hip-hop?
Good question. So, first and foremost, my name is King Solomon. I'm originally from Dayton, Ohio. Just to for those that don't know, big shouts to all my Gem City people. You know what I mean? Live here in Cincinnati, have kids here, so Cincinnati has been a second home and a lovely home, and now it's a first home because I'm here. I've been here for years. You know what I mean? So, I said I'm from Dayton, Ohio. As far as my interest in the music, man, I've always been into music, just in different ways, sang in the choir type stuff. You know what I mean? Sang in the choir, and had an opportunity when I was younger though, and I guess what I'll take you to is my first times in the studio, and then I'll bring it to the music side, because I started in the studio long before I did music. As a kid, my mom, she would always try to look out for us to do different things, you know what I mean? So it was a time where I was doing modeling, and this is probably fourth, fifth grade, you know what I'm saying? Like modeling and doing print ads and all that kind of stuff. But this particular school that I went to that did it was like a modeling school, you know what I'm saying? But they also used to teach us theater, and they would also teach us, different things for to be able to have public speaking abilities, you know what I'm saying? So I got a job as a kid, back in the day, and I got a job doing voiceovers for radio commercials, for jingles. Yeah.
You gotta tell us how you got into that.
So like I said, it came through the modeling school, and they had different avenues for us to do different things. I was kind of popular as far as in my school doing acting, because I used to do plays and all that kind of stuff. But what happened was I got looked up, and the Kroger Corporation, big shout to Kroger, they were looking for a person to do voiceovers for local ads that had statewide syndication. So they had these ads for holiday platters and shit like that. So I was Barney Kroger. Barney Kroger's the original Kroger owner, but what they did is they had a play on him being a kid, and so I was actually Barney Kroger in those ads doing the voiceover. So that brought me into the actual studio.
Is Barney Kroger a white or a black guy?
Barney Kroger is a white guy. Great question. And the thing was, my diction. Like, okay, I'm gonna even flip it back just a little bit more. So my family, my dad is originally from Nigeria. Met my moms. They both went to Central State, South to Central State. You know what I'm saying? And boom, here I am, Dayton, Ohio. Boom, here I am. So I used to live in Africa as well. You know what I'm saying? Like, I lived in Lagos, Nigeria. I speak my language. I understand my language. I don't get to speak it as much here, but pretty much, it was just having a different life learning in those schools over there. Like, I learned French, English, and Yoruba, which is the African, which was the predominant language in my area, you know what I mean? So the way that I talked when I came back from there, like, I sound like a British, I sound like a Brit, I talk like this, I will have like the correct English, quote unquote, the correct English. So, but just, I guess that mixed with the Midwestern twang sounded like Barney Kroger. so that was like, that was my first introduction to the studio.
Okay, now hold up. I don't want to knock your drink over either, but I feel like we sped past a lot of deep information. I want to know what the difference is between the schools in America and the schools in Africa.
Oh, wow. Well, the difference is they have a very, like, strict, at least when I was there, the school I went to, I think it was called Grace School. So it was kind of like it was a not a religious school, but it was like a Christian school. But you know what I'm saying? It was all types of denominations that went there. But the thing was, where are you gonna go to school as a grade kid, as a going to grade school where you got to learn French, English, and Yoruba? You know what I'm saying? Like, so, it for me, it was a super hard transition because I didn't speak the language like that when I was a kid, So it was a definite hard transition for somebody being from the United States going over there. But I definitely got a lot of love, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like some of the way I kind of helped bring some hip hop to the people from my family, We had the Public Enemy tapes and stuff like that. When I would go over there, I would bring stuff, and they would steal those tapes. You know what I mean? And really be, like immersed in what hip hop was, or at least what we thought hip hop was. But like I said, I digress. That was just, that's that side. So music wise, like I said, I've always been into music. I've always sang. I've always been into theater, that type of thing. But when I moved to New York, that's when the bug of hip hop hit me. You know what I'm saying? So,
how old were you when you moved to New York?
When I moved to New York, I was, that was 1980. I'm dating myself, folks. I was 19. That was 1987. Okay. So I was probably, so I was probably like 13. And I lived in the Bronx, River Park Towers. Roberto Clemente. Shouts to all my peoples out there in P line. I'm gonna go old school, in P line for you. You know what I mean? That was a good time. Like, the first artist I ever seen perform hip hop was Busy B. Shouts out to Busy B Starsky. He came to our school and performed You Messing With Me, It Might Be Suicide. This was like at our high school, in our gym. You know what I mean? So for me, I used to see, like, firsthand, like, some of those greats that people really may not know about but are learning about, that push hip hop to the forefront. You know what I mean?
I had another question about something earlier, but we passed it up so crazy. So you got to New York. How did you get bitten by the bug? You said that how did you end up actually getting into music?
Okay. It's funny. See, I bounce around. What happens is, I guess you call me a transplant because I've moved around to a lot of different places. So when I was in New York, I was still into music. I was still, singing in the choir in my school or whatever. Just stuff that I was doing, like not even really, trying to go do anything. But I had got accepted to Fiorello LaGuardia, which is Fame. Okay, so this is back in the days of Fame. Not that. This is at the end of it. Yeah, there you go. It's at the end of it. But I got accepted to Fame. But the school that I went to got kids into college preparatory schools, which were boarding schools on the East Coast, okay? So I had the option of going to the East Coast or, boarding schools or maybe staying in the city, but my family moved back to Ohio. So what happened was I went to a boarding school in Indiana, and at that boarding school, they had a music and art department. One of the interns that was there from, one of my mentors, he was from Chicago. The school was like 2 hours from Chicago. He's from Chicago. He actually had like music equipment. He had the rack mount sampler, and one of the other kids from Chicago, my homeboy Eric Cohen, shout out to Supreme Scientist. He's doing his thing right now. You know what I'm saying? He knew how to make beats. Like he actually knew how to. Now understand, we're like 14, 15 years old. This dude already knew how to use beat making equipment.
And this is not Fruity Loops.
This is not Fruity Loops. This is an actual. This is a sampler, but this is like a rack mount sampler. So this isn't like like you're pressing a button. This is like you gotta program it. You know what I mean? So, and luckily we had a building there. It's called the M&A building, where they had like studio rooms, they had like music rooms, and this is for the band for the school. So we lucked up. We lucked up in time. You know what I mean? I was already writing and into the music and just into. I was from New York at that point, so it was like that was hip hop at that time. One of my friends from school was Eddie Dozier. His daddy was Dougie Fresh's manager. You feel what I'm saying? So when it goes back, it's like, yo, man, like, my mind is like on some other when it comes to thinking about in the past and like my experiences. But so that's where I started really actually making music, was at my high school in Indiana, in the middle of nowhere, right. Secluded. It's on a lake. So it's, it's a beautiful place though. Don't get me wrong. It's like, it's a lake city. You know what I'm saying? Right. So that's very much where I started making actual songs, you know what I mean? And it's funny because the friends that we had around us, they would listen to the music, you know what I mean? And they lived in Chicago or they lived in Indiana, because there's kids from all over the world that went to the school. Exactly. So you have a whole, different people from different walks of life that was giving their opinion on what they liked about your music, but they liked it, you know what I mean? So that gave me that confidence to like keep building, you know what I mean?
Right. And then, so once you got through school, boarding school, you ended up going to Ohio State, right? Or you went somewhere before that?
Somewhere before Ohio State.
Okay.
Then I went to Ohio State, yes.
Okay. So you went somewhere before you went to Ohio State. Then you ended up graduating at Ohio State. Yeah. Now, once you got to Ohio State, I'm thinking that, or maybe sometime it had to be after that. Once I started hearing your name. It was when I first heard about your name. Before I heard this CD. Which one is this one called?
It's called
the Solstice EP. Yeah, I ended up seeing this at everybody's records. But I was hearing your name, and may even see you at maybe, I don't know, Ripley's or something, something like that or whatever. But every time I saw you connected, it seemed like there was a connection with you and Warner Battle and Mood and everybody. So I kind of like, I knew of them first. Then, like I said, immediately after that, I started hearing of your name. So when you hooked up with them, was it while you were in school at Ohio State, or it was around that time? So tell me about your connection with them and basically how you even got into being a part of the Warner Battle crew.
So, like you said, I went to another school before. Shouts to JCSU. I cannot not shout out my Golden Bulls, JCSU. I went to a HBCU right after going to boarding school because I wanted to get back to my black experience. Okay, and got down there. Had a great time, but partied a little bit too much with my black experience. You know what I'm saying? Like, because you got to realize, the school I was going to was an actual military boarding school. So going to there was kind of like not the same. You know what I mean? Like the mentality of what we were doing, and it was in Charlotte, North Carolina. So it was a whole different experience, but it was the black experience. I wanted to go and get my a different world and get my, you know what I'm saying? So transferred back to Ohio and started going to Ohio State. And one of my roommates in college there was a guy named Charles Cooper. Charles Cooper, shout out to Charles Cooper. He's from Columbus, Ohio. He's a jazz artist, but also a hip hop artist. And like when we linked together, it was just on some, we had class together. We had black studies, and dude would walk in with a pack on his back, and I'd be like, "Bro, what's that?" And he's like, "Yo, it's a saxophone." I was like, "Oh, you got a saxophone, huh?" Like, yeah, I spit, and from there it just we built. You know what I mean? So what happened was I also have a group too. Like, and I would be remiss to not speak on the Universal Dialect and the Greens crew. So we are from Dayton, Ohio. So understand, after I left high school, I was still going back and forth to Dayton because my mom and them were living in Dayton. So I have a group from Dayton that I was part of, you know what I mean? Like in the midst of me doing my own things, I've always been in a group called Universal Dialect. We left, well, I'll get back to that, but I'm in Universal Dialect, I'm in college at Ohio State, and Charles Cooper has a band. So now we ended up being one of the only like artists kind of around the time the Roots came up. And it's like we had a band. We had a real band. So we had a band, and I was an MC, and we were in college, and all of that fits. You know what I mean? And at the time, it really fit, and we became one of those premier groups from out of Ohio State doing things. And that's how we met Mood, is through the music circuits, doing shows. Doing shows. Like literally, we met Mood at a Dayton show because it was like the culmination of all of what we've been doing was this show at Memorial Hall. It was a very big show. We were the headliners, and Mood was there as well. So we met them that night. Didn't really kick it or nothing, but the following week, because I was at Ohio State, we saw them at Ohio State at a party because they were promoting Secrets of the Sands and their first records that they pushed out that had real big push. So, and once we linked up, it was kind of like, yo, then weren't y'all at the show? Like, yeah. Oh, okay, well, yeah, that show was tight. One thing after another. We just linked in, and ever since we linked in, they literally introduced me to the music industry. Right. Like, literally introduced me to the music industry. So understand, for Cincinnati, Mood is a very like integral group in the pushing of hip hop, conscious wise, as well as the pushing of Ohio hip hop. You know what I mean? Because I promise you, they were the first people that I had ever went to a music label with in New York City. You know what I mean? And got the VIP treatment, or who I'd ever went to Los Angeles to the BET Hip Hop Awards, and we're there. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is like, I'm in college though. You know what I mean? So my mind is like, wow, this is amazing, man. These guys are really signed. Right. Like, they're really music artists, and I'm lucky enough to be here. So I guess I must be tight.
I got a question. Yes. I want you to talk about, because you move around a lot, how important is moving around in your journey, and how did it add to it?
I would say that moving around has been my whole journey throughout life, and what I've learned is you get a full round view of what society is. You know what I mean? You get a true full round view of what society is. I was blessed to be able to travel as a kid. You know what I mean? To go overseas and, you know, like literally, I remember going to London as a kid, or being in Africa as a kid, and you know what I mean. I totally remember all of that. You know, and it's just, it gives you a full spectrum on what life is, and literally like that the world is big, but once you start getting into those different pockets of the world, it's a little smaller. You start to meet a lot of the same people or a lot of the same networks, you know. Right. So yeah. So hopefully that answered that.
Yeah, man. I just wonder about that, because I know a lot of people who like left high school and just left, and they're just more well-rounded, know how to usually have different cultural friends, stuff like that, man. It just seemed to help a lot. What you got, Bob?
Yeah, that's true, because I feel like a lot of the times, if you could tell somebody who has either not from where you are or has done or is from where you are, general area. I know you're 45 minutes away from Dayton, but it's, you know, Ohio, South Ohio pretty much. But you can tell the difference between somebody who's been somewhere and somebody who hasn't. You know what I'm saying? Just the perspective on even something like, since we're going through what we're going through right now and have been going through it, right? Somebody like you may be able to communicate or have an understanding of someone's perspective who isn't considered a black person or someone of color, African American, however you want to say it. You just like you said, you know, you've been to Africa. You lived in Africa. Your people, your father's from there. You know what I'm saying? That's lineage. And then you've been to London. You know what I mean? You've been out. I know that you go to the West, the Bay a lot. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like you're getting to I guess experience all these different cultures and take pieces of it and apply it to the man that you are, the man that you become. So I guess my next question going into along with that is, what has been or where has been the other place that you've gone that you feel like I feel at home here with this community and this community of artists, and if there is somewhere like that, what's a memorable story that you can speak on from being in that place?
I mean, I'll tell you off top, it's the Bay Area, San Francisco. You know, part of the story is the universal dialect. My group from Dayton, after I graduated from the Ohio State University, we all moved to San Francisco. So that was the change. We moved to San Francisco. We was like, you know what? We can't make it here. It's not going to work here. We've done as much as we can here in Dayton. We've been on the TV. We've had a single that's been on the radio that's gotten pushed. We've done as much as we can here. We need to go somewhere else. So we went to San Francisco. We moved to the Bay Area. And just luckily, they came with open arms, because the Bay Area used to play Mood Records. They played all of the prehistoric sound records and all of that stuff. So I already had somewhat of a very small fan base for just the small features that I had on those records, you know. And when I moved out there, the Bay Area it was the mecca of independent music. It doesn't matter if it was hip hop, whatever. That was like the mecca of independent music. And if you're out there and you're out there long enough and you're actually a good artist, you will have opportunities to do so much, because that was Silicon Valley. That was the independent record pools, such as Amoeba Records, such as Rasputin's, you know, all the mom and pop stores. Because I want folks to understand, this is pre-internet. This is more like you had to actually be in magazines and you had to actually be on a majorly distributed label to make any noise in the world, period. I was blessed at this point, going out to San Francisco, to have put out the records with Mood, and then also to put out some personal singles with the 5Ds out of Cincinnati. Shout out to Fat John, Pace Rock, and Kyle David. They put out my first record. It was called Solomonic, and I had distribution through Landspeed Records, which was a worldwide distributor of independent hip hop. So, I got into the record game at that point, what I'm saying, 12 inches and putting out stuff overseas, So when I moved to San Francisco, I linked in with the guy Declaim, who was Declaim. Shout out to Declaim, Dudley Perkins, Georgia Ann Muldrow, and the whole family out there. You know what I mean? That's the other ship. That's my family. You know what I mean? He put out this record. He knew about me from just our personal circles. But when I came and he had a label called Ill Mind Music, which had distribution through a record label called Groove Attack over in Europe. And Groove Attack at the time was like the Def Jam of Europe. So if you had a record on Groove Attack,
I was like, wishing I could get on. They had so many of the dope artists.
we
almost got on Land Speed, but we missed that opportunity. But anyway, go ahead.
But the whole thing is, things happen for a reason, and they happen real smoothly. Like, even at Land Speed, at that time, Pace Rock was working for Land Speed. So it was easy to be able to, put out records where it would get out to everybody. Not to mention that when people would press up 12 inches, like labels would press up 12 inches at that time, they were pressing up like 5,000 to 1,500 records, or 5,000 to 15,000 records at the time, and this is literal vinyl records where you can go into a store and see Solomonic right now, you know what I'm saying? Like, I guarantee you'll see it anywhere in the world, you know what I mean? Like, because it really got out there, you know what I mean?
I want to know what the promotion and marketing. You kind of talking about the marketing right now, but right now you got the internet. It's kind of easy to get to be heard and be seen. You can be more visible. But how was that grind of promoting your own record? What was that like back then?
Well, I mean, one blessing that I did have is that these distribution companies had like publishing. They had publicists and people to promote your stuff. So I was getting like people don't understand. We have print magazines nowadays, but not as much as how we used to pre-internet. So you got to realize, what the Source, Double XL, Accelerator magazine. It's so many different magazines that were around at that time that actually would promote hip hop. So,
One that was dedicated to like beat makers. They would have like a producer be on the covers.
Wax Poetics. What's the beat one though? Now I know what you're talking about though. I know what you're talking about.
I had a subscription to that.
So
Waiting for that to come every month.
So pretty much it was like through the press, and understand this was also at the beginnings of the internet. So those that were working for the record labels already kind of had a foot in on knowing how to promote you and which regions to promote you. You know what I mean? But the blessing I had was coming from Groove Attack because, at that time, Raucous was real big, and a lot of the artists from there would do stuff on Groove Attack, and they would actually distribute. Groove Attack would distribute stuff from Raucous. You know what I mean? I was there at that time of that second golden age of the late 90s, early 2000s, vinyl going into the internet style. You know what I mean?
Can you kind of name some more of the artists that you work with and some of your favorite experiences?
I've worked with a few different artists, to name a few, of course, the Mood Camp, I've also, like I said, I've worked with Dudley Perkins as far as like promotions, getting stuff out there. As far as I've worked with Talib Kweli, if I can go down the names of the folks that are part of our squad that actually have pushed things. I've worked with HiTek here in Cincinnati as well. I've done a record with Sadat X from Brand Nubian. I did a record with this cats from Belgium called Full One, and on that record it was Master Ace, Main Flow, Scorpio from Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five, Akhenaten from this group called I Am, and Akhenaten, the group I Am, is like the Wu-Tang of France. They're like the biggest selling artists. They're ridiculous, you know. And who else was? And another guy called Rock and Squat. So he's another artist from France. So, you know, did that particular project. I've worked with different folks from Detroit. I've worked with a guy named Magnif and Lawless Element. You know, I work with Fat Ray. I work with a slew of just different people. Most recently, I just came out last week. I was on and this is important about being able to bounce around and still being able to have ties with different people in the areas you bounce around. My man Rasta Q-Tip hit me up from San Francisco, and they just put out Got Kidney Part 2, which is a album about helping folks with kidney issues and dialysis, because Rasta Q-Tip survived a lot of issues like with kidney issues. So, and that's a Bay Area thing, you know what I mean? And you know, people that's on there. And when I say Bay Area, it's like, you know, we have the Hieroglyphics crew. You know, those are my homies, the Hyro crew. The Chosen Few, my man Unjust, you know, and my folks out there in San Francisco and Oakland. Architect, my man Architect, big shouts to Architect. You know, it's a lot of people that I've built with throughout time, and we still build today, to this day.
So what we were saying, the part of what we were saying, when we had to take a quick break, we were talking about the importance. You just hit on it, the importance of taking your experiences, really not taking your experiences, but cultivating the relationships throughout these different experiences that you've had throughout the many places that you've been. So I guess kind of like saying, because like I said, a lot of people haven't been outside of their city, and they're doing something that may put the eyes of the world onto your project or your platform, and they may not know how to communicate. You know what I mean? So sometimes you telling them something they don't get into. Some things we don't get into, you would have to experience yourself. But best as you can explain it, the importance of good relationships, keeping good ties with people as you move on and move away from, you're not around them as much, but when you come back to that particular city or you come back to that part of the world, it's always love because of whatever the foundation was set between you.
Well, I learned that for sure in San Francisco. I learned that in the Bay Area because that particular market was like the number 3 or 4 market in the United States. So if you weren't doing music in California, you had to be doing music in New York, or, you know, it would be in the Bay Area. Hold on one second.
I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but we don't permit any filming up here on the rooftop. We have to get approval from Marriott before we're allowed to do that.
I talked to the guy at the front desk, and he talked to. Are you the manager?
I just talked to Jessica, the general manager. She says that she was asked that earlier. She said strictly no filming unless we get approval from Marriott ahead of time.
I asked if we came up to the rooftop, but we didn't shoot. We're not shooting the building or mention it. Yeah, so.
Well, the thing is, I think she was under the impression it was just a radio show and there wasn't going to be.
Well, it is a radio.
I know, but the film is the thing that is not permitted.
Even though we're not shooting the building.
Yeah, I think because I think they can tell like where we're at. Or I'm just the assistant general manager, and I hate to be the one to step in and say this because I don't want to be the middleman, but she told me specifically that there's no filming up here.
What was that lady's position that came around and told you?
That was my general manager just texted me and let me know. She just stepped down. So, but Brittany is my operations manager. She's up here on the rooftop.
Well, she's on her.
Sorry.
I got Karen's here for today. Let's see.
Hey, man. Appreciate you.
I'm sorry. That sucks. I wish that I could do something for you.
Yeah, like I said, this is 91.7.
We'll probably be done in like half an hour. Like this is Cincinnati Public Radio 91.7.
Yeah.
We're just getting a short interview, not shooting at the building. He told me if we came up here and shot That way we be straight.
She said that no filming, strictly no filming. Like if you were just doing radio and you didn't disclose where you're at, that it wouldn't be a problem.
We didn't disclose where we're at.
I believe you. I believe
Just a
you.
question though.
Yeah,
as far as for the people that are taking selfies and all that, and then putting AC Marriott, what about that issue? Like,
I don't know the answer to that question.
You know what I mean?
That
Like,
makes sense. I get you, dude. I get you. And I'm not doing anything but more than just doing what I'm told to do. So
How you doing? What's your name?
Brittany.
Brittany? You the operations manager?
I am.
Okay. If we're not filming the building, like, because I'm sure people come up here and take selfies and stuff like that. How does that handle?
How is what handled?
When people come up here because of the backdrop, I'm sure people come up here and take selfies and
Say
film
I'm
with
out
each
there,
other,
right.
and we're not even saying the location of the place.
Uh-huh.
How do you handle that?
Well, it's not really my call. It's our general manager, Jessica and Kyle here, and kind of a trickle down from her, so.
Yeah. Okay, I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I'm sure you were the one who relayed the message, right? That we were up here, right?
I did.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
I mean, it's my job. I'm the operations manager, so just.
Okay.
And Jessica just reached out to me. That's all it is. I apologize. I wish if we knew in advance we got approval, I don't think it'd be a problem at all.
Who do we talk to about
I would
it?
talk to
Right,
Jessica. I would talk to Jessica. She's the general manager.
She's here?
She's not. She just left. She was the one that just called me or texted me and said, "Hey, just make sure they're not filming because we're not allowed to film without Marriott approval." So,
All right.
my apologies.
No, that's no problem.
You
Thank
guys want a drink or something? I'll buy you a drink.
Oh, we cool.
No,
we
well,
cool.
just to make it up, I feel bad.
We had one already.
right.
All right.
Thanks, guys. Have a good night.
All right.
Yeah, man, we back, man. We just got Karenized. We got ran
man.
off.
Believe it or not, we got Karenized. Can you believe it?
In the middle of everything that's going on right now, man, it's still tone deaf people, man. But we still here with my man Solomon, man. We're gonna finish this joint up. So where do we even go after that, man?
Let's get into the important thing that he's doing now.
Yeah.
With the cannabis movement. So take it away.
So we talked about the music side, and what's going on right now is I've segued into doing more of the legal Ohio cannabis legislation and advocacy.
Okay.
And that all stems from living in San Francisco. Once again, living in the Bay Area. When I moved there, that was the first years of medicinal cannabis use in the United States. And it was the proposition went through. And Ohio now, such as many other places, has medicinal cannabis for different uses. And what I found was there's still like a roadblock that's like put in there for the African American and people of color that are trying to get into the cannabis business. And the one thing is, there's a lot of equity programs that are going on in different cities that do have this medicinal and legal cannabis. And, you know, Ohio wrote that out of the legislation. So me personally, I kind of, you know, being that I went to The Ohio State University, we also kind of help writing in with the people that write the legislation for the state of Ohio. So I was like, you know what, I need to get onto my activist side, because I really didn't feel it was fair that they wrote the social equity programs out of the paperwork. So that means that people of color really don't have the best way to get in, because usually it's people that you gotta be part of a conglomerate, and it just doesn't work out for our best interest. It works out for patients because we do actually have medicinal use in our state. So that's a great thing, because it helps people that fall under those guidelines for having one. And the thing is, like I said,
So they want us to be sold to, but not have no equity in it.
exactly. And personally, I started advocating for Have a Heart dispensary, which was owned by Reverend Damon Lynch III. And that's one of the only minority-owned dispensaries in the state of Ohio. So we had an opportunity to get into it and promote this and do it correctly. And even that, it took a whole lot of roadblocks for them to get to the point of being open. But now they are open. It's on High Street. It's at 8420 High Street.
How fitting.
In Cincinnati, Ohio, in the Hartwell section. You can go there as long as you have your medical card, and you can go get cannabis, you can get vapes, you can get edibles, you can get things that you need for any of those debilitating issues that you may have that will bring you to actually have a cannabis card. So it just kind of, like I said, it put me in a space of, you know what, I'm already in entertainment, so let me start being an advocate, and let me start consulting some of these brands and help them in Ohio with some of the things that I learned in California. I also still have a lot of great ties in the cannabis industry in California, because I was there at the beginning, and a lot of those people that I was friends with have now moved up and have gotten into some of those social equity programs. Big shouts to John Chip Moore from 4 and 20 Blackbirds. They just worked out something, if I'm not mistaken, and they just got another dispensary open. Big shout to Alfonso Tucky Blunt and the Blunts and More dispensary out there. They are actually the first social equity dispensary that was put into the program. So that's an actual black dispensary in Oakland, in the Bay, you know. So those are some allies that, you know, that I deal with. I have a lot of different allies in different places, but like as far as the social equity side, those are some of the good friends that are making waves for the African Americans and people of color in the cannabis game.
So it's still room for people who, what do you really need to get into the cannabis game?
Well, it just depends on what you want to do. You know, it depends on what you want to do, because there's many ways to get in, but as far as getting licenses and getting, there was only a certain amount of licenses that went throughout the state of Ohio. If I'm not mistaken, it was 54 licenses for dispensaries. They filled maybe 48 of them, and then now I think they filled all of them at this point. So the best bet that I would say to anybody that would be trying to get into the cannabis in Ohio industry would be to look into the ancillary businesses, which are businesses that deal with things that help in the cannabis space. You know what I'm saying? CBD, you know, you got to realize all of this is holistic goods that help, and it's for wellness. So a lot of people still mistake it for just getting high or whatever you want to call it, but you know, even that is a misdiagnosis if you really want to get down to the problems, you know. So yeah, that's what I've been doing. And right now, well, in 2019, during the holiday season, I started along with, well, I was asked to be part of, along with Midwest Canna Women and Green Harvest Health, which are both black-owned. It's a medical company for Green Harvest Health. Midwest Canna Women is a collective of women in the cannabis industry in Ohio. But both of these are owned by black women. You know, I have Green Ideas and Wellness, which is my blog and which is my consultancy group that deals with helping different folks. And what we did right now is this past holiday season, we had a thing called Cannabis Can. And what Cannabis Can is we had 25 different companies, ancillary companies and companies within the cannabis game in Ohio. And we took these cans, well, like tubs, green tubs, and we actually had physical green tubs at their locations, and people would get discounts on their products if they would bring donations that we gave to Free Store Food Bank, Mid-Ohio Food Bank, Greater Cleveland Food Bank. And when we did this initiative, we actually came up with a half a ton of food for families in the Ohio state, you know, the whole Ohio state, like throughout the state. Right. So what happens is the pandemic came, and we took it upon ourselves, because cannabis was an essential industry and is an essential industry in the pandemic because it is medicine. So we took it upon ourselves to try and help out, because there's so many people right now that are going through issues with not having food because they've been laid off from their jobs or they've been furloughed, and you know, it's a change in these people's lives, and it's a change of quality of life. So there's a lot more people. There's at least 40% more people going to the Free Store Food Banks to get food, so they don't really have as much of those resources as they used to have to serve the people that need it. So like I said, we took it upon ourselves, and right now we're doing a virtual food drive. It's called Cannabis Can. We have partners involved with it. Once again, ancillary businesses that are dealing in the cannabis space and all spaces around. And we're doing with Free Store Food Bank, Greater Cleveland Food Bank, and the Mid-Ohio Food Bank in Columbus. For every dollar that is donated, the Free Store Food Banks or the food banks will donate $9 to match. So we're trying to feed 12,000 families, and right now we're at 50%, a little over 50%. We're almost at the end of our drive right now. If you do want to donate to the Cannabis Can, your donations go directly to the Free Store Food Banks. Nothing goes in our pockets. So it's www.freestorefoodbank.org/Cannabis Can. So that's one of the initiatives that we got going on when we're trying to like dispel the myth of what it is to be in the cannabis industry. Also dispel the myth that we can't get into the industry. We're going to make sure that we get into the industry.
You ever had a bad weed experience?
Nah, never had a bad weed experience. Never had a bad weed experience.
Do you use it as just recreation or?
No, I am a patient. I do have my issues that I use it for, and I do actually have a medical card. I do utilize the dispensaries, and another thing too is, a lot of folks when you get flour and all that stuff on the street from your local homie, you never know where it's coming from. So one thing that I do know is that the flour that we are utilizing has all been state grown, so it's grown within the state. It's grown, most of it's been grown like organically. You know what you're putting in. You have everything is written on the packaging, so you know exactly what you're putting in your body, right. And you know what you'll need for your personal dosaging or your personal reasons for why you need it. Because you may not want a high indica, you may just need something like a sativa for your anxiety or whatever, what have you. So
With y'all, when you get into the legal side, since it's government mandated, you have to put certain stuff in it. Is it anything that y'all have to include in it that's like, that's kind of sketchy?
No, I'm not saying that there's
no arsenic or...
Me personally, I'm a consultant.
Okay.
So, that would be, you would need to talk to the growers, because it's a whole, in Ohio, since it's medicinal legal, we have growers, we have processors, and we have dispensaries. And that's the process of how it goes. So the growers are the growers. They grow herb here, they grow hemp here. They sell, or they deliver to the processors, which process it, put it in packaging, and then they get it to the dispensaries where it's distributed to the patients.
What's your favorite way to medicate?
My favorite way to medicate is probably, honestly, I like edibles. I like edibles because
they can be overwhelming.
They can be overwhelming.
Your body will go to sleep.
They can be overwhelming, but that depends on what kind of edible you've had. If you have a super indica, you will go to sleep. If you got a sativa, it's going to have you up feeling good and ready to move and creative. It helps you in creative spaces.
I had a gummy before. I think it came from Detroit. But it ruined my whole weekend. My whole body was fleeced for the whole weekend. I tried to walk. I felt like Bernie. Weekend at Bernie's, man. It's crazy, man. Get that information one more time.
Oh, yeah. Once again, also check out the blog, Green Ideas and Wellness, at Green Ideas and Wellness on Instagram as well as on Facebook. If you want to donate to Cannabis Can, to the Free Store Food Drive and the Free Store Food Banks here in Cincinnati, it's www.freestorefoodbank.org/Cannabis Can, all together. And I appreciate you guys if you can donate, because we're really helping a lot of families. We're trying to feed 12,000 families. We're halfway there. With your help, we can make it.
Yeah, man. One more time, I want you to mention the music that you have.
Oh yeah, man. I didn't even speak on the music.
Yeah.
I got a record out right now. You know what I mean? It's called King Solomonic, the Dialect Years. I put this out with a label in Belgium called Hip Hop Enterprise. I'm still working international music. They still have their distribution. So what we're doing right now is we're doing like taking people back to bring them forward. So we're putting out music, some of the music that we put out, some of the stuff that was limited editions. Because this is the most recent one I put out, actually. But we also have another one called Solitude about to come out midsummer. And we try to deal with CDs or vinyl to keep it still exclusive to those that really want that. And we only do a limited copy of the limited run. So this is all like import stuff from overseas still, to this day.
And you still touring overseas and touring around?
Right now, I'm a family man. I got a family, I got kids, and more or less, I've been more pushing things in the cannabis legalization side. So, I'm doing more touring in that aspect. As of the pandemic, right now we're doing Zoom conferences and different types of meetings. We actually have a cannabis conference on a Zoom conference. You can get all that information on Green Ideas and Wellness.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man, this has been the Nomtombout Radio show, man. We got hit with Karen.
We got hit with Karens in the midst of everything going on.
Don't be tone deaf, man. Don't be a hater. It causes cancer. Yeah. Not trying to be funny to anybody who has cancer, but stop the hate, man. This is Nomtombout Radio.
Yeah.
You can check us out. Social platforms, man. Check us out on Instagram, Nomtombout_radio. That's NOMTOMBOUT radio. Check us out on YouTube and Spotify, Nomtombout Radio. All old episodes. You can check all of that out. You can check me out personally. I am Blaze6513, BLAZESIX 513. What about you, Bob?
Mr. Vibe1 on Instagram, Vibe1 on Facebook. That's VIBE-ONE. Vibe1 on Twitter. E.S.A.ENT@gmail.com for any studio time, beats, future bookings, because ain't nothing going on right now, but you can get me right now.
Yeah. We actually got a joint together. I ain't gonna say nothing about that. We got a joint already.
Definitely.
For Cincinnati.
We got that funk.
We got that funk. Shouts to Jabri the Wise one.
Yes,
you know
sir.
what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's going down. We're gonna come with a few different things so you guys know what it is. Also, it's at King Solomonic on Instagram as far as any music stuff, at Green Ideas and Wellness as far as the cannabis side.
And I'm sure we're going to have him back on the show because I don't even think we scratched the surface of who this man knows and what he experienced, man. So y'all stay safe out there, medicate responsibly, and don't be a Karen. Now I'm talking about, until next time, goodbye. Did you have something else you want to say? I heard you say and. All right, man. Karen, stop it.
Bomb.